London is a city made by food. If you look at this image of the Thames in the early 19th century, you will see ships from all over the world queuing up to offload at what were called the legal quays, which is basically anywhere between the Tower and London Bridge, which was the only space they were allowed to do it. The king never took any responsibility for feeding the city. That was a mistake that the French kings did. Actually, London just got on with feeding itself and trading, and as you probably know, its great boom time, of which this is really the sort of tail end in a sense, was based on sugar and slavery. So there's a sort of murky but very, very clear past to London, which is, thanks to its position at the heart of a global empire and on a navigable river, it's always really been able to rake in the cash, which is something we've already heard referred to. Now, food not only made London, but it also shaped it. And if you look at these three maps, you'll get some idea of how grain coming in on the left, fish coming in the river as well, meat sort of walking in and therefore coming into the north of the city. But you can see that if you lived in London before the railways, here's Smithfield, one of the great spaces of London, the public space, the sort of the visceral nature of the city, and the fact that it relied on its hinterland was very, very visible. This is how London's fed today. The food comes in from places that we don't know of. So, I mean, what I'm really saying here is that trade, food, the invisible structures that support this city still shape our lives, but the economic and the global forces that really underlie that are invisible. But if you look at them, they're scary. People always talk about London being a global city. Being a global city means you have a global responsibility. Actually, we invented this way of feeding ourselves, which is based on going out and getting the food and, frankly, anything else you want from somewhere else. It's a catastrophe. And we're sort of in the middle of it, really. So if you call the sort of global degradation that results in the industrial food system sort of the external costs of, if you like, the free trade thinking that London invented, then the internal costs are coming back to haunt us now. Poverty, inequality, unemployment, food deserts, obesity, and food banks, the great, great shame of this very, very rich city. That 100,000 people last year were forced to go and get their food as a handout. What would I like the post-mop-headed mayor to do about this? Well, here's a beautiful image from the 14th century in Siena when politicians really did understand the importance of food. This is a wonderful image, some of you may know it, Lorenzetti's Allegory of the Effects of Good Government, which basically says the city needs to look after the countryside and the countryside will look after the city. In other words, food is political and it's symbiotic. What could the mayor do? The mayor could produce, in every borough, where there are these food deserts, food hubs. Now, this is not just about a nice place to go and look at plants growing. It's actually could be the meeting places that Claire wants. It could be the industrial spaces that Mark wants. But it could bring all of those together because food is at the centre of everything. Food is what connects us. Food is what makes life worth living and possible to live. And it's also the greatest employer in the world. There are half a million people in London employed in the food industry. Places like this in every borough in the most impoverished areas could not only join London to its immediate hinterland again and make people immediately outside London, give them jobs, but also bring good food into places where you can't get it anymore. They're general meeting spaces around food, but if you think about it, all society evolved around food. London evolved around food. We can't live in utopia, this is tragic, but we do already live in Sitopia, which is a food place, and we can just make the city and our lives and the city and London better by thinking through food. So this is what I'd like the next mayor to do, is to learn to see London and life through food. That I'm obviously done. Thank you very much.